Oh sheet! The implications of melting ice sheets. We interviewed some of the brightest minds at McMaster University.
Do you know what ice sheets are?
No.
No.
A sheet of ice.
I will in a second.
A massive glacier ice that covers surrounding terrain and is greater than 50,000 kilometers squared. That's also known as a continental
glacier.
Does Canada have ice sheets?
Probably.
I would think that's,
Yes.
Yes.
Wikipedia doesn't say, so no.
Do you know the difference between glaciers, ice sheets, sea ice, and ice shelves? Not many people do. Here's a quick rundown. Ice sheets. A permanent layer of ice covering an extensive tract of land, especially in a polar region. Not like glaciers, a slow-moving mass or river of ice formed by the accumulation and compaction of snow on mountains or near the poles. Definitely not like sea ice, frozen ocean water that forms, grows, and melts on the top layers of the ocean. Or ice shelves, a floating sheet of ice permanently attached to a landmass. What happens when the global temperature rises? Melting occurs through two mechanisms, the Zwally effect and the Jakob-Schaven effect. The Zwally effect describes the result of warmer air temperatures that causes surface melting. This increases the amount of water on the ice sheet surface and drains through structures like moulins, crevices, and other fractures. Meltwater reaches the glacier bed, reduces the friction between glacier and land, and subsequently causes glacier sliding. The coupled dynamic of surface melting water and ice sheet movement is directly linked to warmer climate. The Jakob-Schaven effect describes a significant nonlinear response to the perturbation in calving fronts, meaning that the thinning glaciers will become buoyant and lose their mass of balance. Why should you care?
The major consequence associated with melting ice sheets is the rise in sea level. Already satellite measurements show that sea level has been rising, and if global warming is not mitigated in the upcoming years, this rate is expected to only increase. The rising sea level is particularly detrimental to low-lying coastal regions around the world that are at risk of being submerged due to increased flooding and natural disaster associated with the rising sea level. This is leading to the destruction of infrastructure and settlements in coastal communities. Many residents are even at risk of being displaced. In addition, the rise in sea level is destroying habitats of both marine and terrestrial species. Changes in ocean water salinity, land erosion, and flooding of wetlands in coastal regions are endangering many species that are unable to adapt to changes in their habitat. Melting ice sheets also influence ocean salinity and temperature, changing ocean circulation patterns known as thermohaline circulation. Scientists claim that this is affecting weather patterns around the world and thus altering environments of many species. The Arctic region is being impacted significantly more than other regions. Arctic ecosystems and biodiversity are being threatened due to the destruction of many species' habitats. Polar bears, seals, and other Arctic species reliant on ice are at risk of becoming endangered. This in turn is affecting the livelihood and well-being of many Arctic communities that are reliant on these animals as a source of food. Altogether, the Arctic way of life is being threatened, as ice and snow have historically been an important part of Arctic culture and identity. It is especially imperative that melting ice sheets be addressed, as research has shown that without the protective cooling layer of ice sheets, global warming may even be accelerated. Altogether, it is important these consequences be addressed for environmental, social, and economic reasons.
Although the Government of Canada has not directly addressed the issue of the melting ice sheets, they have made efforts in tackling the major concerns in the polar region. Canada recognizes that many polar problems cannot be addressed by any one nation. Consequently, Canada has partnered with over 60 countries and joined International Polar Year, known as the IPY, which is the largest international program coordinating scientific research focused on the Earth's polar region. In terms of Canada's involvement, Canada has funded $150 million to IPY in the past 6 years. NSERC has also given $6 million to fund IPY grants. In respect to ice sheets, Canada has funded a Nunavut-based project dealing with the dynamic response of Arctic glacier to global warming. The findings will help improve our ability to predict future changes in ice sheets. As for community and outreach, Canada is in its early stages of fostering greater awareness of the Arctic on a national and global level. Since 2007, the government has launched many innovative community outreach programs through means of exhibits, educational resources, film, and television. This coming April, the IPY's From Knowledge to Action Science Conference will be hosted in Montreal, Canada. Here, researchers, policymakers, and other interested parties will translate the new polar findings into an agenda for action that will influence global decision, policies, and outcomes over the coming years. In conclusion, the melting ice sheets is a looming issue. Its effects disrupt Indigenous ways of life, culture, and identity, and can in the long run affect me and you. Canada's involvement in the IPY is the tip of the iceberg. Our government will need to continue funding research and community outreach on polar region issues. We need to put our knowledge to action in order to tackle the issues of melting ice sheets.